Why are you so tense, god damn it?
Because I don't know what I'm doing!
Calm down.
Hello everybody, it's Philly Kuts with another boxing review. This video is probably going to go a little bit longer than my normal boxing reviews because I'm going to review both fights and also going to talk about the implications of tonight's premiere of Premier Boxing Champions on NBC, the return of boxing to network television. In over 30 years it's been since NBC or network, any network television station for that matter, has aired boxing in prime time. And what a great thing. What a great thing to return to really get boxing away from that pay-per-view wall that has been so limiting for some. I mean, this is really exciting. And the two cards that we had tonight, first the junior welterweight bout, Adrien Broner against Molina, and the second battle, welterweights Keith Thurman versus Robert the Ghost Guerrero doing battle, and that was a good, exciting fight in the last 3 rounds for sure. But like I said before, this is just a great opportunity for the sport of boxing, and this is going to be, I think, a huge year for boxing with the Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather fight, and now this, where we're going to have 20 cards through NBC. 11 of these cards are going to be right on the NBC network, and then the remaining 9 cards, I guess, are going to be on their sports network. NBC Sports Network. And also Al Heyman, who these fighters are coming from, his stable of fighters, he's also bought television time on CBS and a couple other basic cable stations like Spike TV, and I think there was one other one that I can't recall. So really getting boxing away from that pay-per-view paywall, which I think is great. Let's face it, I've been doing boxing reviews for quite a while on here. I'm a casual fan, but lots of the boxing streams that I've watched have been bootleg. I've gone on Ole TV a lot and watched some bootleg streams on there, and it's been terrible sometimes. I've probably infected my computer one time with a virus, and lots of freezing and stuttering. So to have 2 great fights in high def on network TV, not having to pay, was tremendous. NBC really put together a good show, quality show. The event was hosted by Al Michaels. Everybody knows who he is. And then the color commentator for the bouts, Marv, yes, Albert, and boxing analyst is the legend Sugar Ray Leonard. So tremendous, tremendous show. And you also had Layla Ali in the field doing interviews, pre-fight interviews, and then also from the corner. So, to put it in perspective, the last title fight, or the last fight that was hosted in 30 years, was Larry Holmes versus Carl the Truth Williams. So, it's been a long time, people. A really long time. So, let's talk about the fights. First, I want to talk about the Keith Thurman, Robert Guerrero fight. It was pretty dominated by Keith Thurman. According to my notes, I gave the fight to Thurman 8 rounds to 4. The judges kind of had it a bit more lopsided. Unanimous decision going to Thurman. Scoring as follows: 120, 107, 118, 109, and 118, 108, all in favor for Thurman. This match, Thurman came out dominating early, really just setting the pace, setting the tempo, better ring generalmanship. He was hitting a lot of good right hands, lots of good 1-2 combos. In the 3rd round, there was a huge unintentional headbutt by both fighters. They kind of banged into one another accidentally. There was no malice, but I gotta tell you, man, Thurman had like a contusion, a freaking lump on his head that was like the size of another head. I couldn't believe how big this thing was. It was like when I saw Total Recall as a kid. And you remember when Arnold had to go visit that guy on Mars named Quano, and the dude lifts up his shirt and there's like another person in the guy's stomach? That's what it looked like. I mean, his head had just an entity on it for the rest of the fight. I mean, they did get the swelling to go down, by like round 10, Thurman started to look more like a Klingon than having another head. It was just unbelievable how bad that thing just instantly appeared on his head. But Thurman, he was a warrior. It didn't seem to bother him at all. Or at the end of the third round, they checked out the bump and he was given the go-ahead. I thought that maybe the thing was going to, like, burst open and, like, spiders and shit were going to come out of it. I mean, I can't express enough how big this thing was and then how fixated I was on it for the rest of the fight. It was just really unbelievable. So even from then on, I felt that Thurman really dominated the fight. He kept throwing lots of good right hands. He was hitting Guerrero's body pretty well as well, and I felt that Guerrero was kind of being pretty docile for really the first 10 rounds of the fight. Then in the 9th round, Thurman threw a very nice, it was kind of like a right hook uppercut hybrid punch over the left eye of Guerrero. It bloodied him, and Guerrero dropped. I mean, it was a gash. It started pouring all over his face, down his chest, down his stomach. He fell right on the back, right on his back like a turtle. And he wisely took his time getting back up. He got up by the count of 9, and he powered through. I mean, Thurman trapped him in the far corner of the ring, and I thought it was going to be over, but Guerrero showed a ton of heart. And let me say, even before this knockdown, Guerrero took lots of flush shots right on his chin. And that man has a great chin, man. Guerrero has a great chin, because he took some devastating punches that probably would have laid out 95% of the other boxers in the world. But he took it. And then in round 10, Guerrero really came back. He did not run away scared. He did not just try to survive. He started tying up with Thurman on the ropes, really laying heavy into Thurman. There were some good exchanges. I felt that Thurman was pretty surprised by this. And in the 11th round, I gave the 10th round to Guerrero, and then in the 11th round, Thurman started running around quite a bit. He just started bouncing around the ring all over, and Guerrero really had to give chase. And because of that, because he was kind of being a coward, and wisely so, he really had the fight in the bag at this point. I just felt that Guerrero really showed a lot of heart, and he never gave up. And that's one thing that I really want to stress, and I actually gave Guerrero the final 3 rounds of the fight because of this. Was because he just came back and really showed that he had the heart and machismo of a warrior. And I really respect Robert Ghost Guerrero for that, because a lot of fighters won't do that. So that's why I had the fight scored 8 rounds to 4. I mean, it was pretty thorough victory for Keith Thurman. He continues to dominate. His record's going to go to 25-0. He's still going to have those 21 knockouts. So good fight, exciting in those final 4 rounds. So the next fight, Adrien the Problem Broner against Molina. Adrien Broner, complete domination in this fight. Really not much to say. The judges had the score. I think it was 2 judges had it scored 120-108, and then the other judge had it 118-110. I pretty much had the fight scored, I think, and I was being generous for Molina. I had it 10 rounds to 2 for Adrien Broner. I gave the second and the third round to Molina because I thought that he was going to actually make it into kind of a brawl which I felt that he needed to do. He needed to be more aggressive. He needed to be more productive. He needed to jab more. He just needed to throw punches, and he didn't. I think that he really was afraid of Broner. He seemed to be afraid to mix it up. To put it in perspective, jab-wise, Broner landed 219 to Molina's 54, and then power punches, Broner landed 78 to Molina's 32. Broner connected 48% of his punches. Molina landed 21%. He just was not active at all. Broner pretty much put on a clinic, and I think that when Broner fights, when he fights more actively, when he's more offensive, he punches more, I think he does a lot better. I think that hopefully he's gotten out of this phase where he thinks he's, Floyd Mayweather, the counterpuncher, and is really putting himself in these awkward situations like he did against Maidana and got his ass kicked. I think when Broner kind of is more offensive in his fights, he does it way, way better. So maybe Broner is starting to discover who he is as a fighter. That's what I really felt in this. I think he fought smart. He even said in the end that, he did what he had to do to win. There were some boos because he was, in the final round, kind of dancing around. He didn't really close the show, as Sugar Ray Leonard said. But he did what he had to do, and he did it convincingly. He just out-jabbed this guy ridiculously, and it worked for him. Also, he still kind of did the trash talking. There was a lot of talking between him and Molina in the ring. He was kind of clowning around, though not as much. He did have an opportunity in the 11th round to do his hump thing that he did to Maidana. I think it was to Maidana that one time, but he didn't. He actually got behind Molina, but he didn't do it. I thought he was going to start humping him. Now, I don't know if, Heyman had a talk with Broner, told him to maybe tone it down a little bit. He did started making the can joke in the end of the fight, the African, Mexican, and they cut him off. He was about to make a fucking ass out of himself like he usually does. But overall, I was impressed. I was impressed with how Broner, kind of toned it down a little bit. He's usually a little too over the top. His smack talk is usually pretty retarded. He kind of likes to play the bad guy. He does nowhere near as good a job as Floyd Mayweather. Nowhere near. Nowhere near. So I think that Broner's, kind of starting to discover his own style, both in the ring and hopefully out of the ring. And it was really an impressive victory for him. But overall, I'm hoping that this was most impressive a victory for NBC and for getting boxing back on network television, because I just think that this is just such a good opportunity. Next month, they have Peterson going up against Danny Garcia, so that's going to be a great fight too. So these are not like chump change fights. These are like really good fights. I mean, for boxing fan and for people that don't know much about boxing. Now, another thing that I thought that NBC did really well was kind of telling the backstories of the fighters in such a short amount of time. I've enjoyed the backstory of Guerrero and his wife battling cancer, that she, has been 5 years cancer-free. I like that they talked about Molina and the losses that he had recently. I guess he lost his grandfather, and then he also lost his friend. I guess it was Andy G. So maybe that's why Molina didn't do so well in this fight. He kind of had a lot on his mind. His friend, I guess, passed away like a week ago, I believe, from cancer. So maybe he just, he might have just had a lot on his mind. But I think the NBC did a really good job, kind of telling the backstories of these fighters to try to give you some kind of personal investment. Because let's face it, boxing is not a mainstream sport anymore. And a lot of people don't know who these fighters are. And when you're trying to attract, the casual fan, you really need that kind of heartstring story that boxing has with so many of its fighters. And that's why it's such a great sport. That you can have somebody like Manny Pacquiao with his background from a third world country, dirt poor, poverty that you and most Americans can't imagine, and to rise to, you know, the pinnacle of his sport. It's just an amazing story. And I think NBC did a really good job. Now, there were some complaints that I had about the broadcast as well. I felt that, you know, being that it was on network television, they had to keep cutting the commercial. So that really kind of takes you out of the immersiveness of the event. I mean, let's face it, pay-per-view and HBO and Showtime is going to be superior in that aspect, that you're not going to have to cut to commercial. Because I love to see, you know, what's going on in between. I like to see the replays of punches. And that was some of the things that were pretty deficient in this broadcast, I thought. You know, not enough replays of the big punches. Also, I noticed that they didn't really go to the corners too much. They kind of relied on the corner reporters. You know, Ali's daughter, and then there was another guy that was doing it. I forget who it was. I don't know why they did that. I'm thinking probably, you know, come to think of it, is that lots of times, you know, in the corner they're using a lot of profanity, they're swearing, they're dropping F-bombs. That's why I think. But you would think that they have like a 7-second delay or something. Maybe not, because it's such a live event. So that kind of really took away from it as well. And then just like I said, the intrusions of the commercials really kind of put a damper on things. It seemed that the format was, I think for the first 2 rounds, they did 2 rounds straight, and then literally every round, after every round, they went to commercial, like for 1 minute. For the final 11 and 12th rounds, they went straight through. They went straight through to the end of the fight. And they only interviewed the winners of the fight, too, which was kind of disappointing. I always like to hear from both sides. So I guess, you know, maybe I'm nitpicking, maybe not. Let me know how you guys feel about that. Let me know how you guys felt about the whole production overall. I thought it was good. I thought the commentating was good. I thought Sugar Ray Leonard was pretty insightful. I thought that at times Marv Albert was a bit Captain Obvious, you know, in the Guerrero fight. You know, he's saying, well, I think he needs a knockout to win. You're kind of like, no shit. He needs a knockout to win for both fights. So, I don't know. You know, maybe that'll get better. I know that Marv Albert has a lot of history calling great fights. So we'll see. But I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to be there next month for that Garcia fight for sure. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you guys psyched for this? Do you think that this is going to be good for the sport of boxing? Do you think that they're going to have the ratings where this is going to be a prolonged thing? Do you think that this is going to really tear down the walls of that pay-per-view market, or what? So you guys let me know what you think. I'm Philly Kuts. Peace.
You fuck! God damn it!
Dad, you're not free. Dad, you're gonna get in an accident. You can't stop here.
I'm all fucked up! Why, I'm going crazy!